So many possibilities. I think creating the math around moving into thriving and not depending on the system is important, and doing some math around diverting some of the funds from acute care to prevention, which is allowing a person to self-direct and live one's dreams. And I think that's part of how I'll frame the advocacy, is advocating for parents to see it as an opportunity to help their young adult child live their dreams. And the more parents can facilitate that, I think this phenomenon of mental illness will fall away. It's hard to say, but the Prosperity documentary was really good. It gave me quite a few ideas in terms of this restoration of the human brain model. We don't think about how our brains need to be restored to their original capacities and capabilities and gifts. And I do feel that people really have done everything already. People have written all the books, created all the courses. There's this newmap.info thing. So many great books. It's a matter of living out one's life and living out one's dreams. Each of us. And trusting that what we need will be there in the moment, and that's what synchronicity is. It's a very deep trust that what we need will be there in the moment. And when we're taking steps in our dreams, since we're walking in our dream, what we dream will be there next, but in a surprising and fun and playful way. And this is the way that the universe can respond to us and co-create with us. And it's co-creative, and that's why people who have a mental health diagnosis and are living with family do need others to have a new consciousness around this phenomenon. And I think it was the book Tribes that said that defending mediocrity is exhausting. And I think part of recovery and the stigma campaigns is defending mediocrity. And I was thinking too about how in the expansive states, there's often a feeling that is ecstatic. And that can be made personal and translate into supposed grandiosity, which is the switch, one of the switches that leads to the fall into pain. And this is the thing, that the feeling, the embodied feeling of ecstasy, can that be sat with and not made into a story of the me and grandiosity? And then there's pain, and it seems my brain makes it into a bit of a story about how I'm a homeless person. And I don't know if it's saying per se that I am one, or if it's saying there are homeless people, feel this, and the sorrow of that can turn back into passion. What I'm trying to say is, when the pain is there and the brain creates stories that aren't congruent with one's life, if it's the pain of all humanity, it can share stories with the brain of different situations of the pain of all humanity. And when we're feeling that, we're not feeling like our ego self. And then people that know us come along and say, what's wrong with you? But the truth of the matter is, we can expand to feel anything from any time in humanity. So in that painful state, there's pain. It's the pain of humanity. So imagine being in that much pain and realizing it's the pain of humanity. I can access anything in humanity, the highest ecstasy, which is non-personal. Anyone can experience that. It's not, I'm so great, so that's why I'm feeling this ecstasy. And it's not, I'm so bad, and that's why I'm feeling the pain of all humanity. It's, we're human beings, so we can sense that, we can feel that. It doesn't happen all the time or most of the time, because that would really be troubling, but it's transient. So in that immensely painful state, or immensely ecstatic, if we can be with that without creating stories, and the ego is the story maker, then if we're not creating stories and believing those stories, then where is the hallucination, or where is the delusion? The ego is a delusion. It's delusionment. So in that energy and that pain of all humanity, it's going to create more lies and stories. If I'm sitting in my chair and feeling like I'm in so much pain, and then I think aliens are coming when I'm just in a lot of pain sitting in a chair in my room, one is going to lead me to the psych ward if I tell other people or I'm afraid. The other, it's going to pass. And I experienced that last night. My body was in a lot of pain. I was sitting with it. There were no extra stories going on about it. About why should I be in this much pain when I'm sitting here in this chair? That must mean I'm bad. That must mean I'm being punished. That must mean... None of that was going on. My heart rate was very even. And I sat with the pain without making stories about it. And it passed. So even the story, oh, this is the pain of all humanity, that's a story. But at least it's a story that I realize, oh, this is going to end. It's not going to go on forever. I can handle this pain. It's not that bad. It hurts, but... And I could make up the story, oh, I'm processing more for others that they can't process. These are stories too, but they're perspectives and reframes that lead the brain to be calm and realize it's going to end. So if I have extreme body pain and I think, my symptoms are coming back, then I'll make a story, and then I'll think, oh, I should tell someone, and then they'll be worried, and then they'll say, you should take this, or you should do that. Maybe we don't need to do anything about it. Not even make stories about it. So I also feel like there were stories coming up for days, and I wasn't believing them and acting on them. I talked about this. I kept going through life. And I think the nutrition and the nutrients helped. But there were a lot of scary things. But I think eventually the scary stories kind of give up. And then I'm left with this body pain without a story. Because pain is pain, and there's all this psychological pain, which creates stories of the psychological pain. Without a story, where is the psychological pain? So by denying the story-making process of psychological pain, perhaps the pain of expanding into more of human consciousness and then contracting back is physical pain. And it's bearable, it's doable. It's easier than the psychological pain, I'm finding. So the important part here is by allowing the process and not prematurely making it into a story about, this is about my mental illness. By realizing that we can experience or feel so much more than we think we do. And by thinking we are a me, we think that our experience and feelings and thoughts should be limited within what the me directs and has in the past. But that can expand and it can contract. And it's starting to do that as an exercise in order to, not starting, it's always been doing that, but it's always been doing this. It's a matter of how we see it and how we understand it. and there's no ultimate understanding of it, and there is no it. But the human brain can understand, and at this point what we're doing now is diverting and outsourcing that understanding to the medical authority of psychiatry. So if I feel these body pains and there's a story and I call it panic or anxiety, then that's what is going to lead me to walk myself towards an authority who's going to give me something for it that perhaps if I sat with it for an hour, it would be gone. And that would lead to walking on with one's life, as opposed to walking into the psychiatry office and then walking into the pharmacy and then walking out with a prescription and then walking and taking the meds and then poisoning the whole body. And the body doesn't like that, and the brain doesn't like that. So as one does that, the body is less and less able to meet the challenge of feeling this pain, of feeling the whole of humanity. And as Krishnamurti says, passion comes from sorrow. And it could be a mechanism of so-called mania that if we're taking meds and it's blocking the feeling and then moving through this pain and sorrow, we're still accumulating it. And there's still some part of the body that is experiencing it, though we're not consciously aware. So then eventually when enough sorrow builds up, there is a switch in the brain and in the body that we can't process any more sorrow, so the brain switches us into ecstasy, which is the mechanism of being with sorrow and allowing that to transform the being. And then when that being with sorrow has passed, again, one is aware, perceptive, present, attentive, because one was attentive with the pain. So one is able to be attentive with everything going forward, and taking the meds is saying, I don't want to pay attention to this, I can't sit with this, I can't be with this. But just like any type of training, the more we can sit with this and be with it, the more adapted we are to sit with it and be with it. So there could be more of it that comes along and we feel it less. Or if the wave of it is a certain maxed out intensity, the next time it comes along, we don't feel it as intensely. Who knows how it works exactly, but the more of us that can sit with it and be with it, it will build our strength of being able to sit with it and be with it. And those who medicate it, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, it's what we know how to do. It's what we've been told to do. It's what we've been trained to do as a result of thinking it's our personal mental illness. It makes sense that we would treat ourselves with something. But if it's non-personal pain of humanity that passes, if we can be with it and sit with it, it's temporary. Then we be with it and sit with it, and it's temporary, and then we build up strength to be with it and let it move through us. And then by being attentive, we build attention. We're able to be attentive to each moment like we are through the pain. And that could be the gift of it, is being attentive. Not saying, I'll be attentive when it's wonderful for me personally and gives me pleasure, but when it's painful, I'm going to do everything I can do. Wander around, create all this chaos of seeing psychiatrists and help me and take this pill and pharmacy and everything. Because I can't sit with something painful for an hour, I'm going to go to this for an hour and walk around here and worry for others and worry for other. I'm seeing what I'm saying. I'm seeing the chaos that is created because we can't be attentive with a bit of pain. And there's a time and a place. It takes a lot to realize that we have a lot more power than we think. And by giving our power over to psychiatry to understand us, then we get lost in that system. When if we're able to sit with something for X amount of time, we can go on with building our dreams and creating our life. And like I said, I think the meds make it so we can't sit with it. Maybe when this pain comes, it's best to sit still with it. But if I take something so I don't feel the pain and I'm moving around and doing other things and not attentive to what's there, whether it's pain, whether it's daily life, by not being attentive to what's there, I'm contributing to the buildup of chaos in my life. And if the cells and the whole body realize that I'm not with the moment, I'm moving in the wrong field. I'm moving in an incoherent reality. I'm not moving based on reality. And in reality, in actuality, there is pain. And I feel like I'm making pain sound so wonderful here. I'm not. I'm talking about my experience of moving through it. And maybe some people don't get any pain. I don't know. And it might not even be pain. It might be energy. It might be the cells mutating in some way. Just like as we grow up, some of us get growing pains. These could be growing pains. Growing into expanded consciousness and feeling more. And as we're able to feel more, the universe gives me, I don't know if it's a me, with a lot of insights. And with that seemingly comes responsibility. So can I be responsible with the insights which feel good or seem good? And can I also be responsible and attentive to the pain? And in that way, I'm not saying to the universe, okay, I want this, but I don't want that. I'm being indifferent to either, to both. And it's this indifference that the universe is sort of testing out on us in a way. I feel like the universe gives us more responsibility depending on how we respond and our ability. And this isn't some outside force. It's cultivating and growing the ability, the capacity to be responsible, to respond adequately to the moment, not make it about the me. And that's one of the things I was saying to myself through the process. This isn't about me. Even though things that were about me supposedly were coming back online, and this is part of the contraction, but I still realized it wasn't about me, and having that understanding in the background didn't add to the me, which any addition to the me in the already confusing and scary stuff that was going on likely would have made it so the me was in fear, and then that would project so-called delusions or saying things that seemed out of character. I was able to reestablish being connected with my character according to those around me, my personality, without making it about me, which adds a layer and then strengthens the me even more, which would then lead to maybe saying things like, I'm afraid, or I'm having these weird thoughts. Weird thoughts can arise in us as a result of being human. It has nothing to do with the me, but the weird thoughts are the me. So it's this really circular, weird thing. But what I'm saying is, by not adding a movement on top of the movement of the process, by resisting it or fearing it or trying to run, it doesn't make it worse. So I had this sense of wanting to escape and wanting to run, but by not running, I didn't fulfill that which the thoughts were bringing back online by virtue of them arising in consciousness. Being the witness of what's arising in consciousness and not participating with it. I wouldn't want to participate with those types of thoughts, and they went away. What if I try and do something about it? That's the thing. We try to do something about it. We try to do something about the pain. We try to do something about the thought. And that reinforces the whole thing. And I really don't know if any of this is true. I'm attempting to speak about the process that I went through that isn't really over, but I'm feeling somewhat grounded in the illusion of free will. It's very comforting. And I'm grateful for it. And what if one was able to utilize that illusion of free will while one has it to create? So I'll go back to feeling like I'm creating something and this is fun, but it's still fundamentally an illusion of free will. There's no doer, something's happening. But it's nice to feel like the doer of it. So if one feels like the doer, why not do what one can create instead of creating and living out these lower gravitational energy field patterns with the supposed free will? I remember when I was in the hospital in April 2016, feeling like sitting all hunched, and with the free will coming back online, I used the free will to sit up straight and say, no, the energy is not going to warp my body and contort it into lower energy postures that then change the way people around me respond. I have no idea what I'm talking about. On some level, I've created all this. I've done it all to myself. No one's done anything to me. Even when I say psychiatry has harmed me, that is only true on a certain level. I'm responsible for my interpretations. And I see that I need to move outside of this interpretation. But I also have this sense that I'm grateful to be interpreting it from my subjective ego, free will, illusion perspective at the moment. It's nice.